In continuation with the last lecture on motivation, I am just trying to take the process theories today. And when we talk about the process theories, we broadly discuss about equity theory, expectancy theory, and we will also discuss the Porter and Lawler model of motivation. And then we have reinforcement theory, which we have already discussed a little bit in our learning concept. So, starting with that process theories, this becomes very important to understand that when we talk about Adams equity theory, so we have basic assumptions. What equity theory talks about? Equity theory talks about that suppose you are giving someone 10 minutes, so you have certain expectation in those 10 minutes. So you talk about that individual make contribution input for which they expect certain rewards, and there is always a comparison between the input and output. That means contribution and rewards. So it is not that a person only compare with the input and output. This comparison is basically with respect to someone other's contribution. Say for example, X student appears in examination and prepare 6 hours a day, and the outcome comes that his result is third rank in class, and Mr. Y prepares only for 2 hours a day, and then rank comes first in class. So it is a simple comparison that one is contributing 3 hours a day and getting third rank, other is contributing 2 hours a day and getting second rank or first rank. So simple comparison of input by X and output of Y of X, as well as the input of Y and output of Y. So it becomes very simple that your comparison comes with respect to some other person. Second assumption of Adams equity theory talks about that individuals decide whether or not a particular exchange is satisfactory or not. That means if you see that by contributing 3 hours you get third position, so it is your parameter which makes you satisfy or which dissatisfy you. And this is simple comparison of their input and output with others. When we talk about this comparison, you can understand that if you make some efforts, so obviously in company you want outcome as a form of pay. Time as an input, you look at the outcomes. Someone works after 5 p.m. and then talks about that he should or she should get promotion, early promotion or promotion before then their colleagues. Or sometimes you compare education and you talk about the recognition. Most of the time, you know that if some engineering student gets selected into any classy position or class 4 position of railway or any government department, maybe because of that unemployment or opportunity issue, after getting that job of class 4, the person will always compare the education level and recognition. Obviously, the person who will be colleague in your railway classy job, that person might be illiterate or maybe that 8th pass or 10th pass, and you are a BTech. So you will compare your education and recognition as an outcome, and then you will find satisfaction level or dissatisfaction level. Similarly, it is the experience which talks about the job security. More experience talks about that more job security, that at higher position you may be more secure. But it is a simple comparison, like training, ideas. If you have better ideas, so you want to be benefited from those ideas. Ability. So it is simple comparison. If you look at in terms of formulas, you talk about that if a person finds himself as an overpaid inequality or inequity may be of overpaid or underpaid. So when it talks about overpaid, person's outcome vis-a-vis person's input, if greater than others outcome vis-a-vis input, then you will say that you are overpaid. Underpaid means less. Your outcome vis-a-vis input is less as compared to others outcome vis-a-vis input, so you will be called as a underpaid. In both the conditions you will be in inequitable, non-balanced position, whereas the overpaid inequity is usually giving you the green grass, and that is why it is marked as a green. It will not give you tension, it will give you happiness. If your outcome vis-a-vis input is more than other outcome vis-a-vis input, say for example you work for only 3 hours and you get salary more than other person who also give 3 hours, then you will be happy. Altogether it may be that you are overpaid, but you will be happy. But if it is less than other person, it will be underpaid, means you will think that you are underpaid and your input is more than others input, but your outcome is less than others outcome. Equity position means when person's outcome vis-a-vis person's input is equals to the other's outcome vis-a-vis others input. So this becomes very important. Adam's main center of this theory was that a comparison of input and output with other person, and relatively it gives you happiness, satisfaction or dissatisfaction. Apart from this, there is another theory of motivation, which is expectancy theory, Vroom's expectancy theory. Vroom's, after studying so many industries and people, tried to postulate, established a concept that is based on the balance and expectancy. So when we talk about the balance, it is basically the strength of individual's preference to a particular outcome. And expectancy is the probability of particular action which leads to an outcome. Means you expect some outcome, and with respect to that outcome you do some activity or action. So when we talk about this, we have mainly 4 points. We talk about that what is your input, your performance, need and reward. So you can understand with this particular image, we have a very clear cut understanding of the perceived effort reward probability. Perceived effort reward probability means you have a perception that if you will make this level of efforts, then you will be awarded in this form. So there is a probability of perceived effort award equation. Say for example, you know that if you will do 1 hour extra in any industry, so you will be paid the double hourly rate as per the industrial laws. So it is very clearly perceived by the employees. That means if employee will work after 5 normal working hours, so the rate of per hour payment of wages will double. Even it happens that if you understand that if you ask any laborer working in your house to work after 5 or 6 p.m. so he'll talk about that how much reward he'll get. He expects some more rewards. Before 5, he may not expect more rewards. So there is a perceived probability by the people which tells about that efforts which you will put in extra, that will result in some extra reward, and the value of reward is very clearly understandable, and accordingly the people make efforts. That means if labor knows that after 5 p.m. he will be paid twice the rate which is usual in office working hour, then he will make additional efforts, and those efforts depends on the ability and traits of person. That means if laborer or if mechanic, if so that depends on the ability and traits of a person, and the role perception is very important. What particular person thinks about the role in that efforts. So for example, if you ask someone to work after 5 p.m. and you also hire another person or your local servant, house servant, to assist that person, so the laborer may be thinking that the role of his role is diluted by some assistant. So this results in the performance accomplishment. This results in performance if the person's ability and the person's role, if person thinks that he or she is the only one who has to make efforts and get rewards, then the performance would be a little bit improved or different, and this performance will lead to rewards. Obviously there may be some intrinsic rewards and there may be some extrinsic rewards. Now intrinsic rewards simply means that you talks about the recognition of that work. You simply say to that laborer after completion of the job that well done, you have done a very good job and I am very thankful to you. So this comes about as intrinsic rewards. Internally that laborer feels that you have recognized that additional efforts made by the person. So this comes under the category of intrinsic rewards. And at the same time, the extrinsic reward is twice the hourly rate paid to the particular person. Wages. So those wages becomes extrinsic rewards. Now both intrinsic and extrinsic rewards are substantiated by the perceived equitable rewards. That means in combined form, what is the equitable reward that person perceived, and this perceived equitable rewards talks about the satisfaction or dissatisfaction level, because ultimately sometime your intrinsic rewards may be higher level and extrinsic reward may be lower level, but equitable rewards may be at par with the expectation. Sometimes your intrinsic rewards may be very low. You do not recognize. You simply say to the laborer, take your money and thank you, go back. So intrinsic reward may not be so much, and extrinsic rewards may be, then equitable rewards may be at par with the expectations. And this satisfaction level gives a feedback that value of reward which is being received or perceived by the employee is good, expected or not, and these intrinsic and extrinsic rewards also linked with the perceived effort rewards probability. That means these intrinsic or extrinsic are whatever efforts reward equation was there, which was earlier perceived by employee. And the satisfaction level, if satisfaction is high, then it goes that value of reward. So this talks about the Porter and Lawler model of motivation is very simple, which talks about the efforts linked with the performance, linked with the reward and satisfaction. So you can understand that yellow, green, blue and green. So when we talk about efforts, performance, rewards, satisfaction, this equation or the model was given by Porter and Lawler. So you can understand, you will make efforts which will result into performance that will give you rewards, and those rewards will satisfy you or dissatisfy you. So this is a very simple equation of Porter and Lawler model, which talks about that when you are having these inputs, so whether your output is satisfying you in this whole process or not. Apart from this, reinforcement theory, which talks about the Ivan Pavlov and Skinner contribution. Ivan Pavlov was basically a doctor who talked about that classical learning theory. That means if again and again a particular input is given, conditional stimulus and unconditional stimulus, and conditional response and unconditional response. We have discussed this Pavlov experiment in very detail. And Skinner talks about the operant theory, which is related to the action or behavior with the outcome. If you see that if you will do this thing, you will get this reward. If you will do this thing, you will get this punishment. So reward punishment, which talks about, which works as operant conditioning. So we have this positive reinforcement. That means a process of, if it is related to positive outcome and reinforced, so it will give some positive results, good performance and satisfaction level. But if a negative reward or negative outcome is reinforced, so it will lead to some different satisfaction or dissatisfaction level. So reinforcement theory is also, learning theory is also motivate you to do something again and again. So what we talk about this reinforcement theory, that you can go back in your learning concept which we have discussed. Another important concept that we will also add in this particular motivation is that McGregors theory X and theory Y. Altogether, this talks about the personality or the person who himself, by virtue of his personality or traits, feel motivated or feel demotivated to work. And in that case, McGregor classified two types of personalities. X type personality and Y type personality. So in a very simple, as you can see in your slide, theory X talks about the X type of personalities. Who are these people of X type of personalities? This theory X talks about that average man is by nature indolent. Try to avoid work. He always try to avoid work. He works as little as possible to sustain. Whereas theory Y talks about that average man likes work. Average man does not dislike work. Whereas theory X talks about, we have shown it in red form, means negativity cross X. An average man lacks ambition, dislikes responsibilities, prefers to be led. That means the X type of personalities are good followers, may not be good leaders. These type of people are inherently self-centered, indifferent to organizational need. They are self-centered. These type of personalities, by nature, they are resistant to change. They don't want to change. They live in their comfort zone. No innovation, no new thing. They try to follow traditional things. That means if previous person was doing this activity, so they like to do same activity. No experimentation, no new thing, no innovation, no creativity. So they are resistant to change. They don't want to change. X type of personalities are gullible, not very bright. They're ready to dupe of a charlatan and demon. They are not basically very intelligent, and they don't want to utilize their whatever knowledge or whatever capacity they have. Whereas the Y type of personalities are entirely opposite to X type of personalities, and theory Y talks about that how to manage these type of people. If there is a theory Y type of personality and the person who works on particular process, so the motivation comes from internal side. Only because he likes work, so he will start work on his own. He will not require any push or pull. X type of personalities always require some push. When someone hits them, then they start work. Whereas theory Y type of people, they themselves start work. They learn in proper conditions. They are ambitious. They seek responsibility. Whereas theory X dislike responsibility. Theory Y type of personalities or Y type of personalities, they can be a good leader. They always try to lead. They come in front. They take problems head on and then try to solve them. The capacity to exercise high degree of imagination, ingenuity and creativity in the solution of organizational problem is widely distributed in this population. This population means theory Y type of people. Theory Y type people are creative, imaginative, ingenuine, indifferent. So they think in different way. They are creative, they are innovative. They try to solve the organizational problem. The intellectual potentialities of the average human being are only partially utilized. They are intellectual, but they are not properly utilized by the organization or companies. So you can understand that if you have to motivate X type of people, how to motivate them? Since they dislike work, So they can work only under pressure. When they see that there is a reward punishment theory, if you will, if they feel that X type of personalities, theory X says that if you have to motivate people, if you have to make people to perform, you have to show them punishment of not doing work. So you can motivate X type of people to work only with the punishment theory. Whereas theory Y type of people can be motivated with the reward theory. If they see that yes, they will do this thing and they will get this reward. Mostly they feel maybe that intrinsic rewards or extrinsic reward. But theory Y type of people, they are very much influenced by intrinsic rewards rather than extrinsic rewards. Theory X type of people are mainly influenced by extrinsic rewards. If you say that if they will work 1 hour extra, they will be paid 100 rupees extra. So they may be motivated. But theory Y says that if you simply give recognition of their potentiality, their knowledge, their talent, so you can make them to work, you can make them to perform. You know that in our ancient theory, ancient period, and old age people, they motivate you so much that you are intelligent. So when they say that you are intelligent, it means they make you to enter into personality Y type. And by recognition, you will work for them. But there are people who are not easily handled by that theory. They can only work when they feel that if they will not do work, they will be punished. So there is a different concept. I'll try to add this Ouchi's theory Z also. Altogether, this theory Z is not a motivational theory. It is a simple a comparison of American culture and Japanese culture. And theory Z does not indicate anything about Z. Theory Z simply means alphabetically it is the Z means last one option which need to be understood in order to look the level of motivation in the organization. So it is simple comparison of American organization and Japanese organization and gives you some lessons to learn how to make people to work. Like American organization, usually this comparison is 2 decades back comparison, and there may be some updation or upgradation also in this theory Z. So American organization usually provides you short-term employment or believes in short-term employment, whereas Japanese organization believes in lifetime employment, long-term affiliation. And if employee thinks for short-term, the level of motivation or the person's use of potentiality may be lower. In Japanese, when person think that yes, I have to work lifetime in this office, in this company, so the contribution may be higher level. It's very simple. So that way you can understand that person may be working a little bit in higher degree of contribution. American organization believes in rapid advancement, whereas Japanese organization believe in slow advancement. American organizations usually adapt individual decision making. They make individual people responsible, whereas Japanese culture believes in collective decision making. And you can understand a concept which was very much popular in 90s about the collective bargaining. That mainly that was referred mainly to Japanese type of organizations where they were adapting this collective bargaining as a tool to handle labor issues. And in discussion with the trade unions or trade union leaders. So collective bargaining was one of the tools which was coined or mainly used by Japanese organizations. American organizations are different than Japanese. They believe in individual responsibilities, whereas the Japanese they believe in group responsibilities. They own the whole working group owns the responsibility of any failure or success. American organizations usually have segmented concern. Segmented concern simply means that maybe that they talks about that officer cadre or the top board or management may have a different policy as compared to the second class or third class, third level of employees. So they have segmentation of concerns. Maybe for marketing there is a different concern. Maybe for HR, maybe they have a different concern. Maybe someone who's working in production department, they have different concern for them. Different pay scale, different system. Japanese culture believes in holistic concern. The people who are working either in one function or in other function, they will be treated at par. No segmented concern. And American culture gives you a specialized career. Specialized career, and Japanese organization they believe in general career. So you can understand this theory Z talks about the simple comparison, and you can understand that people originated from American culture, American organization, or it is affiliated to American organization, or having some parent company linked with American culture. So how to handle with them, how to deal with those people, and how to make them to perform. Whereas for Japanese people, how can you make them to perform? That is very clear. Basically, this comparison talks about a cultural difference, the management approach, which differs from one continent to other continent, and this difference you can go through with the different organizations. Look at that Toyota's functioning, and along with that some other company, American company. You talk about Sony, you talk about GM Motor, you talk about recently you talk about Tesla, you talk about Amazon. Whereas you may not say that in Amazon in e-retail segment, you have a leading Japanese online retail segment in India, which you can compare with. But yes, in automobile you can find American also, Japanese also. You can understand that what is American culture. American manufacturers are there in India in automobile segment, whereas the Japanese manufacturers are also there, Suzuki, and so you can very easily understand that what makes the difference. However, now they have also, when they become multinationals, so they have also started adapting the global strategy, and maybe that American company has started diluting this individual decision making and moving to collective decision making or group decision making. Or maybe that Japanese organization, they have started getting into individual decision making or individual responsibilities or rapid advancement. And what I feel that the very if you talk about the technology, so for example in mobile development, you will find that most of the Japanese mobile manufacturers, they are by the time in slow advancement approach, by the time they come up with some technology with some product, the other companies like Chinese or American or Korean, they are already there into the market with the big chunk of segment of customers. And that is why you can say that the Sony mobile and those are lagging behind. maybe because they are not able to update the rapid advancement into their system of business. Maybe sometime some companies are moving to rapid advancement. I mean, Japanese companies are moving to rapid advancement and they are updating. Especially in automobile segment, you will find that they have adapted global approach. Japanese companies. So my point of making it to learn is in terms of motivation. All these theories, all these concepts talks about how to manage with people and how to look at the motivational aspect, how to make people to perform.